Hi everyone, welcome back to what is episode 19 of SmugMug Live. We are fairly getting through the numbers. I can't believe it's 19 already. Wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited about the episode we've got coming. A dear friend of mine, Gerry Van Der Walt, is joining me today. But before we head over to him, as always, I would love to ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification. That way you'll be notified anytime we go live here on SmugMug Live with some shows and guests and tips and tricks. It's almost the end of the week. This is the last show of the week. Next week we have some great guests coming onto the show. We've got a tips and tricks episode on Tuesday. On Thursday, I will be joined for a second time here on SmugMug Live by the incredible Bella Kotak. And on Friday, I will have one of our ambassadors from the Netherlands, Richard Terborg, joining me next week. So it's going to be an exciting week next week. But for now, let's head to Johannesburg and see if my dear friend Gerry is there. Gerry, are you there?
Alastair, how you doing, man? Nice seeing you.
Good evening in South Africa.
Sure, it's 7 o'clock and cold as anything. It's bizarre.
Gerry, you are a little pixelated, so I'll apologise to the viewers, but you know, it's late at night and your computer's obviously tired after a busy day.
And remember, we're in Africa, hey, so everything's a little bit slower. It's African time, so hopefully it kicks in soon.
I had a dear friend who used to live in a place called Ganubi. And he used to use that phrase, Ganubi time, as he used to call it. You know, everything was just a little bit slower and a little bit more relaxed, you know, beautiful part of the world.
South Africa is like, if I say, I'll see you later, it could be, I could see you now, I could see you now, or just now. So it doesn't really mean anything. It's just, I'll see you at some point in the future. So, yeah, I understand Ganubi time.
Yeah, my friend Dave used to say, when you asked him to do something, he says, yeah, I'll do that just now.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could be in 3 weeks' time.
100%.
So yeah, apologies for Gerry's picture is a little bit pixelated, but you know, we'll cope with it. Hopefully, it will stabilize as we go on. Yes. So I've known you for a long time now. I've admired your work for many years. Thank you so much for the incredible work that you have on SmugMug. Why don't we let the viewers know a little bit about yourself now? I know that could take a whole episode just talking about, you know, your backstory and stuff. But could you do a little condensed story of who you are and what you do, and you know, a little bit about Wild Eye, obviously, as well?
Sure. The short version is I actually started off doing sports psychology and competing at gymnastics international level. Then when I stopped that, I did these guiding courses on the side. So to learn to be a field guide, because nature, we grew up in South Africa, and I mean, from a young age, you go to the bush with your family. So from a young age, I did all the guiding courses. Wildlife was a part of growing up. I then worked on cruise ships on the Queen Mary 2, and that's where photography started. It started as a way to remember places and people, because you would wake up in New York and then in the Caribbean and then in Canada. It was amazing. So photography started there. I did a couple of courses through New York Institute of Photography and one or two online things. And then eventually when I came back home after the ships, I went into lodge management, safari lodge management. And that's where wildlife and photography met for me. And it just then, it just exploded. And for the first couple of years, I managed lodges, and I would go out every single day, morning and evening, on game drive. And I would, in the old days when you couldn't even have a business page on Facebook, I would post like a picture and write a little piece on it. Started getting a bit of traction there, and I started a company called Photo Africa, which during my off time from the lodges, I would run safaris and photography courses. And my partner, Jono, now from Wild Eye, he was a shareholder in one of these lodges. One New Year's Eve, he was ready to get out of corporate. I wanted to take Photo Africa and make it bigger, and Wild Eye was born. And that's about 9 years ago now. And since then, I mean, in the first year, we were basically sitting in the office waiting for the phone to ring. Wasn't great. But I mean, you can kind of stick to it. And right now, we've got 10 guides running trips for us around the world. Everything from jaguars in the Pantanal, tigers in India, polar bears, the whole of Africa. We've got our own camp in the Masai Mara. So our idea with Wild Eye is to take people to amazing places for wildlife and nature, and to help them to create the best images possible. And it's been a hell of a ride, and it's only getting started. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's you just mentioned some incredible places, and in the run up to this live stream, I've kind of been pitching that we would talk about the best places in the world to take wildlife photography. And I know, having spent time with you in the past, you have a catalogue from all over the world. So I think the idea today is just to talk about these amazing places that you photograph, but do that with the backdrop of the amazing images you have of wildlife in those places. So shall we see if your screen is working for us? It is indeed. So yeah, so we can see that gallery page there you have, which is always good when that technology side of things work. So yeah, I just would say to those people watching, come along on this journey with Gerry and I as we talk about, these beautiful places. But if you have comments, put them in the chat window. We'd love to hear where you're coming from, where you're watching today. If you have any questions from Gerry, just post them in the chat window and I'll feed them to Gerry as they come in if they're relevant, or we can do a bit of Q&A at the end once we're finished. But I think people are desperate to see these beautiful images, Gerry. So where should we start?
Sure. I mean, if I look at the idea, I think if we can start maybe choose 2013, because these initial years for me, 2011, that was the year that Wild started. So there's a couple of galleries there. 2012 we were kind of just growing up. And I think for me, the moment that I realized that, okay, cool, this is going to happen and this is real, is the first time I went to Svalbard with the polar bears. Because coming from Africa, it almost seemed in a way easy. And I'm not dismissing anything, but it almost seemed easy to run trips in Africa because we've grown up with it. But when we did that first international trip, which was Svalbard, it's about 3 hours north of Tromsø. So it's the Norwegian Arctic. When I got there for the first time, I was like, okay, now it's real. And that was the first kind of time where we went out of Africa. So I think if we just go to 2013 here, these are some of the trips. So how I've designed my SmugMug, and I mean, I recommend this to every single client of mine, because the integration with Lightroom and us teaching Lightroom and stuff has been, Alastair, it's been a lifesaver. I mean, being able to create inside of Lightroom your collections and sync them to your website, it is, I mean, I wouldn't have this otherwise. It is that good. So how I run my galleries, if I just come back here, is I create one for every year. And then inside of that, like I'm going to show you guys now, I do February, January, July, August, and so on. So I then make each gallery per year. So this year actually started this Chobe trip where you see here, this Kudu. I'm not going to go there because that was a trip that we did to go and just check it out. We were still early years. So we went to go and look and see if it's worth it. The same with Singita. The thing here is, actually, I must show you this one. It was amazing because it was myself and Jono going up to Singita to go and chat to Marlon, who's one of my guys now. He's one of my co-directors. And we probably had, let me take you here quickly. This is all one leopard sighting. I mean, everything from here. So we went through this. It was a mom and a youngster. They interacted for us. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this was my first time at Singita. And if people are looking for a destination where they can photograph big cats, and specifically leopards and lions, you cannot go wrong with the Sabi Sands. And Singita is one of the very high-end luxury lodges. But this kind of leopard action there it's daily. It's literally, that's how good it is.
Whereas I'm going to play devil's advocate, because you're going to throw out names here that will be popular to a lot of people. But where's Singita?
So if you look at a map of South Africa, and you kind of come up towards Mpumalanga and Limpopo. So it's in Mpumalanga. It is in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. So if people look for the Kruger National Park, people know of the Kruger, right? So it's a big stretch that comes down from Mozambique all the way down South Africa. It's a long reserve down. If you come down, and just on the western side at the bottom of the Kruger, there's an area called the Greater Kruger, and that consists of the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. And inside there's private concessions, and Singita is one of them.
Right.
So the animals can traverse from here freely into the Kruger National Park, but it's a private reserve. So if people are looking for like a quality photographic experience, there's only 3 vehicles per sighting. So you don't have this rush of vehicles. Yeah. So you can set up your shot, you can drive around the angles. But Singita is a part of the Sabi Sands and the Greater Kruger inside of South Africa.
Nice intimate kind of experience then, if there's so little traffic there.
Yeah. So for me at this stage, when we got to this particular sighting, I was managing lodges in Madikwe, which is more to the northwest, the central north areas of South Africa on the border with Botswana. Very different ecosystem. I'll show you some stuff from there. But leopards weren't a big deal there in those days. It's getting a bit better now. So when we got here and we saw this, I mean, we went out, I think, on my 4 or 5 game drives just as a site visit, and we saw ridiculous leopard action every single time. It was quite silly. So we were awestruck with this. And till today, we are running trips on the Sabi Sands because these cats are so habituated to the vehicles. They're wild, make no mistake, but the photographic opportunities when an animal isn't stressed by the vehicle or by people on foot, like in monopools, I'll show you some from there as well. That's when you get the good stuff, because the idea for us as wildlife photographers is to go to these places and to see animals doing what they do in their natural environment, whether we are there or not. And I think that's what makes it win. And the Sabi Sands, Singita, for leopard action is ridiculous. I mean, the lions are good, probably above average for most South African reserves. But if you want leopard, you cannot go wrong. It is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, if you got stuff like that on your first visit, then that's pretty incredible. You guarantee sightings like this, right?
You can. I mean, and the interesting thing with asking that question, so the 4 main players in the Sabi Sands is Singita, Londolozi, Mala Mala, and Sabi Sabi, and they're next to each other, so the animals can traverse freely. And I saw a graphic when I was up at Mala Mala last, where they say over like a 2-month period, the percentage of animals that the big 5, so lion, leopard, buffalo, rhino, elephant, that they see on drives. And they see leopard most of all. Like something silly like 97% of the time, they see leopard on game drive. Something like 93% would be lions. I think the least was buffalo. Really? So if you're wanting big cats, the environment is just there for it. The cats are habituated. The local rangers understand the movement and behavior, so they know where to go. You can almost, I can never guarantee anything, and I'll tell you a story about the Great Bear Rainforest in a little while, but you can never guarantee it, but this is as close as you're going to get.
Incredible.
So if we step away from Singita here for a second and we go back here, so these 2 trips, February, they should be swapped around. I must remember that. So those 2 were test drive trips. The rest of these were trips that we hosted either with private guided guests or then taking people on safari. But this one over here, this Svalbard trip blew my mind. And how we came about that, just while I open that, is I was running a great white shark trip in Cape Town where we go and photograph the sharks where they breach. So there's a documentary on Animal Planet, I think, called Air Jaws. And the story is about these great white sharks, how they hunt Cape fur seals. And they go down underneath and they come up and they breach and they hit the seals from underneath.
Yep.
And you get these sharks bursting out of the water. It is stupid, ridiculously difficult, but the thrill is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like standing in a room and saying to you, okay, Alastair, listen, here's your camera. Something's going to pop out of the floor somewhere, photograph it. So it's like, okay. But the good thing there is when they normally don't hit the seal first time. So then the seal starts jumping in a figure 8.
And then you can follow the seal. Yeah.
Shark goes down and hopefully comes up again. So anyway, we were at the sharks trip, and the one day we're sitting on a Lightroom session like we do, and the one guest is kind of flicking through his Lightroom. And he has this picture pop up of a polar bear on flat glass water, the nose up, swimming straight at the camera. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? So I'm from Africa. We don't get these things there.
Right.
So he starts telling me about Svalbard. And I'm like, what? So literally I kept him up until 1 in, tell me the story about this place. And when I got back to the office on Monday, we booked our first trip there. We sub-charted 6 spots. And this here, so I'm just going to scroll slowly through this gallery.
Yeah, that gallery's not shown for me. Oh, you got it open. There's quite a delay in your there's quite a delay in your page loading, but we're good. We can see it now.
Okay, I'm going to slowly scroll, and this is chronological from when we arrived and sailed out of Longyearbyen, which is the small little town we start from, and this is chronologically as we did this trip. So just as an overview, I mean, this was my first polar bear, this guy over here, right? But we saw 26 different bears on this trip. So this photography, now remember, I mean, for anybody, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Just to get one. Yeah.
Was stupid. And now this boy from Africa is suddenly up in the Arctic, and you're faced with the largest land-based predator in the world. And not only did we have one of them, we had these 2. Now, if you look at these 2 guys here, we originally thought, and I'll show you now why. This is all of them. We had this particular sighting for about 3 days because we chartered an icebreaker, and we can do what we want. So when we found these guys, we literally stayed with them for 3 days. We originally thought, when we saw this, see these dancing bears here?
Yeah.
That is normally mating behavior. So we thought that it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So we photographing this thinking, oh, this is the story, and maybe we see them mating and everything. It was only until the next year that we went back and we looked at these images, because I do presentations on the boat, that we saw that a polar bear has, a male, has like a penile hair underneath. You can see the yellow. And then we found out this was 2 young males who were basically bonding, and they were bonding over the seal kill that we had. So the photography, and this was amazing. So all of these images here, that these bears are dancing, the one with the feet here, all of these were taken from a Zodiac, and not more than 20, 25 meters from us. You're looking at 7200 type range, right? And the one, I think it was the 1DX, had just come out. Mm-hmm. And of the 12 photographers on the trip, I think like 10 people had 1DXs. It was, when these things stood up and you had like 10 1DXs going,
just firing.
It was like war, man. It was insane. But the whole, this was my first introduction to this place. So I'm going to keep going here. If I scroll down.
So those 2 polar bear had literally tens of thousands of images taken of them in that one session.
Within a couple of minutes. Yeah. So we kept going. And then the landscapes in this place is ridiculous. You get walrus, the landscape. This is different bears. You get close to these walrus where initially someone said to me, oh, you're going to photograph walrus. I'm like, yeah, and I couldn't care. I mean, it's like a big fat hippo with big teeth, I thought, like from Africa. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. The facial expressions on these things when you get up close was just amazing. So you walk to them. So you go on a Zodiac and you walk up close, and you get really close portraits of these things, which is amazing. Arctic foxes. Now, for me, why Svalbard is one of the must-visit bucket list wildlife photography destinations. These images here of this young bearded seal, right? This was taken at about 2:30 in the morning. So how it works, because you've got midnight sun, the only thing that keeps time when you're here is 8 o'clock breakfast, 1 o'clock lunch, 7 o'clock dinner on the boat.
Yep.
And then there's always someone on the bridge. So we saw the seal, and the captain said to me, do we wake the people up? Because it had this beautiful blue ice. It was sleeping in the open. We got the people on the Zodiacs at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we went out and we circled this guy on his piece of ice like maybe 4, 5, 6 times. The photography is 24/7. I mean, in something like the Masai Mara, which I'll show you now with the Great Migration, you shoot a lot of frames. Mm-hmm. But it's because
condensed.
You're looking. 100%.
Yeah.
But here, I don't come back from any other trip with as many raw files as from Svalbard because of the diversity. Not just trying to capture a single moment. But if we keep going here, so you go from these extremes where you've got animals in front of blue glaciers, you've got these dramatic skies, and then suddenly you've got these Svalbard reindeer on green grass. It's the contrast of this place is amazing. And what I always say to my clients is, if you want to go to a place, right, decide why. Why do you want to go there? Do you want to get one species? If you want to just photograph leopards, go to Sabi Sands. But if you want to create diversity in your portfolio, mm-hmm. this is a place to go. It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that obviously being based in Scotland, I'm a lot closer to Svalbard than you are.
Oh, I tell you, the funny thing now, I mean, I'm as you and I speak here now, Alastair, I'm supposed to be in Svalbard right now.
That's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm supposed to. I left on the 22nd. I will be back on the 2nd of June. So as we speak, I'm in Svalbard, which is, it does grind me a little bit deep down inside because I was hoping to do 10 years of Svalbard back to back, and this would have been year 8 for me.
Right.
So, but next year I'm doing 2 trips, so I suppose that's a consolation. But it is the furthest trip I think that I do, and with the new regulations, once we travel again, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see getting anywhere. So,
but based on this kind of shots, it's worth it. It is just,
the diversity is incredible, as you say, from polar bears to wild flowers even in the meadows. And stuff. It's incredible.
100%. I mean, down here, so these 2 young baby Arctic foxes, and just photography wise, this was interesting. If I look at something like, I'm just going to choose a quick shot here. Open this one for you. So coming from South Africa, and this is an interesting discussion photographically, I think, is we are lazy. the majority of African wildlife photographers are lazy because we have so much content. We have so much wildlife. If you go to any safari, you can very easily see 20 mammal species. I'm not talking rats and mongoose and stuff, big species. Yeah. So we've got content. So we tend to be lazy. So when we found these two guys, it was two young Arctic foxes in a den at the base of a bird cliff. So the parents obviously went off. And so myself, two other South Africans, and two Americans, we find these things and we try and find a lineup so we can shoot straight at them. And I realized suddenly that some of the Norwegian guys who was with us, they're shooting a different angle. So I'm thinking, but this is the clean angle. There's nothing here. So I walk over to them, Ole Jürgen Leoden, great guy. And I said, what are you? He says, no, we're looking for depth. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? He says, no. By shooting from here, you get things in front, then you get the subject and you get background. So now you're suddenly creating depth in your images. Yep. That for me was a massive thing at the time. Because if I could then take my overflow of subject, if you will, in Africa and add that kind of approach, it was massive for me. So that, just using the environment, instead of trying to get rid of it, actually use it. This was a big moment for me. So
rather than just documenting, hey, I've photographed that species, turning it into a bigger story, right?
100%. 100%. One of the keynotes I did a couple of years ago in the States was called the continuum of wildlife photography. And it goes from proof shot to document to narrative and then creative. And the majority of people, if you shoot a proof shot, that's like you and I, Alastair, we go to Sabi and the leopard runs across the road and you pick up your phone and you just kind of snap something. Yeah. And that would be, you can go home to your wife and kids and say, look, I saw a leopard.
I saw it, yeah.
It's a bad shot. It's not a shot even. But the step up from there is documenting. And that is what I say to my clients is it's as if you're photographing for a field guide. So if I take one of these books behind me and I open it and say, this is what a lion looks like. It's technically good, but it's boring. Yep. Whereas if you start going over to the narrative side, that's this. That's where you start creating depth, where you started to play with the environment, to use slow shutter speeds, to use aperture, to start doing something different. That's where it becomes interesting to me. And then the creative at the end of it would be the panning motions, the radial blurs, and the stuff like that. So, but this Svalbard trip for me I think was the start of Wild Eye being an international brand. So yeah, it's a bit of a soft spot. So if I close this one, so 2013, I'm going to skip the rest of these. This was early days. I want to get to the exciting stuff. So if I go to 2014, so this now is how we kind of evolved each year, more and more trips, more and more destinations. So the Masai Mara, I'm going to get to in a little while. I ran a trip, which if someone's looking for, if people listening has never been to Africa and they want like one safari, right, is we put together this itinerary, and I still think it's one of the best all-round trips, is the Masai Mara into Lake Nakuru, into Naivasha, into Amboseli. Now, all of those are in Kenya. This could be seen as a best of Kenya, right? Masai Mara for general game all-round. Lake Nakuru for flamingos, buffalo is ridiculous. Lake Naivasha is boat and bird-based. And then Amboseli is probably one of my favorite places in Africa. It's a very small reserve, but there's elephants coming out of your ears, and you've got Kilimanjaro in the background. So for anybody planning one single African safari ever, try and combine those. You cannot go wrong. We then also did Sabi always because of the big five and the leopard specifically. Madikwe, I'll show you some of that in a second. Svalbard, my second home, I think. Madikwe for us was a big deal in the beginning. Now, for those people out there looking to travel to an amazing wildlife destination, but you want to take the family with, one of the big deals always with that is malaria. Mm-hmm. Because malaria there isn't the Masai Mara, but it's low risk. Sabi Sands is a medium risk. Okay. Madikwe is completely malaria-free, 100% malaria-free. It's big five, and it is absolutely ridiculous. Let me open two of these just to quickly show you Madikwe.
So you're saying it's a nice, comfortable place to take family and kids because you don't have to do medication and stuff.
100%, and I think also for family and kids, often you wanna minimize your travel between destinations. Mm-hmm. So the cool thing with Madikwe, while I just opened some of these, is it's about a 3.5 hour drive out of Johannesburg. So you could land, if you fly, for example, from the UK, you land normally 8 o'clock in the morning in South Africa. You could be on site in Madikwe with an easy transfer by lunchtime. Right. It's that easy, right? And then it's malaria free. A lot of the lodges are catered towards families. So let's say, for example, you yourself and the kids come, you would get your own game drive vehicle. So the kids can be in the back, you can do your photography, and it's safe. It's an amazing destination. So these images on screen here, this is taken from one of the hides. There's about 3 photographic hides inside Madikwe. And you get these low angles on the elephants. It is absolutely an amazing, if you haven't been in a hide and you haven't had elephants like 2 meters walking in front of you, you're missing out. So the one I want to show you here, just as a nice little moment for me, was this. Let me know when you can see that.
Yep. Oh,
so that's
an elephant, right?
That's an elephant foot behind that frog. So we weren't planning this, but this frog jumped into the hide once. There were myself and 3 guests, so we kind of throw him back out. And he jumps, but we throw him back out. And the next moment, we didn't even see this giant foot steps just behind him.
Just missed
and
it.
This elephant starts drinking there. So I say to the guests, quick, there's the shot. This is the thing. But it's moments like this that you can't even imagine that happen when you sit in a hide.
Yeah.
These things kind of develop. So Madikwe has amazing hides where you can get all of the stuff you're looking at here is from this photographic hide, up until these 2 hornbills here. The rhinos in the evening, the sand grouse, elephants splashing. And literally when you photograph stuff like this and the elephant is splashing in the water hole, this water hole is, the start of it is about 1.5 meters from you, and it goes away, that you would probably get splashed on in an instance like this. So it's about, and this for me is a big deal. Wherever you go to photograph wildlife, it should be about the experience of wildlife photography and not just the images that you get. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So these hides,
really,
do you drive out to the hide, or is it on site?
This particular one is at the lodge.
It's at the lodge.
So this was a photography workshop. So you would go on a morning game drive, and the evening we'll sit in the hide. But what we did here is we had days where we sat from 5 o'clock in the morning until midnight. And you just sit there. This is actually cool. There's a bar fridge in there as well. So you can just grab a beer and you're good to go. But
Gerry's priority number 1, right?
It's wildlife photography is hard work, Alastair. Come on. But all of this is taken from the hide. So it just makes for a nice diversity. If someone's been to Africa and they've done the game drive, then I would say maybe try something on foot like Moana Pools, or try the hide, because it builds your photographic portfolio, and your SmugMug is going to be the better for it because you've got more diversity to it.
I've got to ask, what's the wildlife we can hear in the background?
That is Rocky downstairs, one of my Boston Terriers. I don't know why he's barking, and my wife should be home soon, and I think he wants to go out, but we'll finish this first.
No, I'm being fun, because it does sound like there's a soundtrack every time you put up one of these animals, you know.
A CD in the back. So this here is Madikwe during a different time of year, and the nice thing with the park is there's these couple of very big dams, literally a big dam, and you go and sit there for the afternoon and elephants just come and go. I've sat at these dams and I've counted up to 250, almost 300 elephants around there. So you just put yourself there and you watch for shots. It is from a single species or diversity point of view, and then of course the family friendliness of it, Madikwe is definitely one to look at.
And remind us the location of Madikwe and the geography.
So Madikwe, if you look at a map of South Africa, it's pretty much in the middle on the northern border with Botswana. So the northern border of Madikwe is the border to Botswana,
Gotcha.
And it's in South Africa's northwest province. It's about a 3.5-hour drive out of Johannesburg. Really, really worth a look.
Incredible.
So, if I go back here, so this was 2014, right? So more and more, and just a note here for people watching: if they start planning their own wildlife photography trips, specifically to Africa, but anywhere, is look at seasons. So people would often say, I want to go on a trip, where should I go? And I'll say, well, have you been to Madikwe? And they say, yeah, I was there like 2 years ago in January. Okay, yes, John, but have you been there in May and August and December? Because it's different. There's more dust, there's more clouds, there's rain clouds, there's no water. So one destination you can go to every single month of the year, and it's different. So don't dismiss going back to the same place again and again. But again, it depends on what you want from your own photography, which is a big deal. Why are you doing it for? Right. Jumping to 2015 here. So what I have here is Naivasha, Nakuru, Masai Mara, and Amboseli, which is that Best of Kenya place. Right. Now I'm going to open Amboseli, so long we're going to visit there. Madikwe again in May, Svalbard. There's my polar bears. Sorry, Rocky's really upset downstairs.
He wants to see these amazing images. He wants to join us.
I show him he's a little bit blind, so he's old, so he can't come up the stairs.
Oh.
Mana pools I'm going to open for you, and this is what I want to show you. And then that one. Nakuru, Navasha, Masamara will go and visit, Madikwe. So what we started doing by now, as the company grew up, we ran more and more safaris. Now, these are only the ones that I ran, right? These are my personal trips each year. Each of my guides, and every year we got new guides, ran different trips, but similar destinations, different times of year. So if we just go through some of these for 2014, this is Amboseli, right? It's the smallest park in Kenya. It borders Tanzania. And if you look at something like this, this is Kilimanjaro, the highest freestanding mountain in Africa. Mm-hmm. And you get shots like this, where you get your elephants, fully grown elephants, in front of the mountain. That's like the iconic Amboseli shot. But the win for me here, and if anybody says to me, listen, I want to book you for a private guided trip where we can focus on every technique possible, I will take you here, because you can do these wide landscape type shots. You get elephants, and not one or two, I'm talking hundreds, right next to your vehicle. You get Lake Amboseli, which I show you now. It is probably one of the most photographic and photogenic parks in Africa. It is truly, truly magnificent.
Yeah, when you have a backdrop like Kilimanjaro, the landscape opportunities to tell that bigger story we were talking about, to add in the aspects of storytelling with backgrounds like that must be incredible.
It tells a story of the place. Now, from where this image where I just showed you now, this one was taken. If you if you and I look at this now, you turn 90 degrees to your right and you drive for about 15 minutes, right? You get onto Lake Amboseli, and then suddenly you're seeing and creating images like this. So Lake Amboseli is this dried up lake bed. It's about a 10-kilometer diameter, and it's been dry since forever. If it rains sometimes, you might get a little bit of water that lasts 2 days, but then it's gone. And you've got this heat haze coming up. I have had some of the most incredible, creative photographic moments on this lake. We drive, you get out, you lay flat down on the floor, and it looks like the surface of the moon. And you photograph zebra, giraffe, elephant. It is, and that to me, and things like this here, the diversity in Amboseli, I'm yet to see in any other place. It hasn't got as many animals as far as quantity goes as something like the Masamara, but the diversity of photographic opportunities is ridiculous. It is just insane.
I know I've seen some of the kind of abstract work that you do and some of the very creative work that you do, and I guess that a location like that just lends itself to going from big wide vistas to close-ups on the animals to then that really abstract stuff. So
this to me is one of the places, if you look at what lenses to take on a wildlife photography trip to anywhere in the world, you would normally be leaning towards a 70-200 and 200-400. Those two would get you right in 90% of places, right? Mm-hmm. Amboseli to me is, you can take, if you and I go today, you can take 14 mils all the way to 800.
Take everything you've got.
You will use everything. And also, your iPhone, you will shoot iPhone shots as well and videos. I think one of my favorite videos of last year was, I had a client at Amboseli and we were laying down, and our goal was to get elephants at sunrise walking across that dry lake bed, and we got it. Yeah. And I've got a video with the sunrise and about 100 elephants just keep on going past and past. It's on my Instagram as well. It is absolutely amazing. Diversity in Amboseli, you can't match.
Yeah.
Then, go to here. So this is Amboseli, different time of year. The previous gallery was from February. This is July, same year, right? So just notice the elephants, the baboons, they're always around the lodges.
Yep.
I have a hate relationship with them. We're not going to talk about that.
Sometimes in the lodges.
Oh, man, I can tell you horror stories, man.
Oh, I've witnessed it.
So lions, if you stay there for 3 days, you will see lions, right? But it's all about the elephants. So you talk about the kind of creative things, is I love my kind of slow motions where you can pan an elephant's foot because they're everywhere.
Yep.
Elephants to pan is actually quite difficult because the pivot point when you pan an animal is the shoulder joint, because that's the one thing that stays still. An elephant's head actually bobs up and down as they walk, so it's difficult to pan. But if you focus on the ankle joint kind of here, mm-hmm. and you kind of pan with as they walk, you can get very interesting results. These kind of things. So this is on foot, us sitting next to the vehicle on Lake Amboseli. And this young bull was giving us hassles. He was charging up and down. And we had our backs against our vehicles. It was 100% safe. This was shot with a 24-70, but these kind of shots you cannot get in any other reserve, no matter where you go. Yeah. So from a unique portfolio point of view, but more than that, the experience in Amboseli is just amazing.
Yeah, and it's still in South Africa. So, the Amboseli is Kenya. Sorry, Kenya.
Yeah. So, I mean, if for people who want to travel there, the interesting thing is that you can either fly directly from UK in, Amsterdam in, Paris in, and New York also flies directly in now. So it is so easy to get to Nairobi, and then it's a 35, 40-minute little hop over to Amboseli, and you're in this.
It's very accessible. Maybe not right now, but compared to even 5 or certainly 10 years ago, it's very simple to get to now.
Absolutely.
Man, look at the dust in those two.
This sequence starting from here and here. So this is how we found these two guys, right? Old boys. This is at the base. So Kilimanjaro's behind, and these two guys were standing, giving each other a bit of a look. And then they started posturing. This is probably one of my best elephant sightings ever. And they started giving us the hassle. So a bit of a push back. And you often see elephants, especially in Amboseli because of the numbers, that they kind of have a go at each other. Mm-hmm. And they play fight, right? These two guys kept on posturing at each other, on and on. And then suddenly, Alastair, this is with a 7200 at about 100 mil. So this is not far away.
Not far away, yeah.
You could hear these tusks as they crashed into each other, and they just kept going. And they literally wanted to kill each other.
Wow.
This was full-blown fight. There was no holding back. And the dust, literally at some stages, we had to stop shooting because the dust covered them. And they literally wanted to beat each other up. And it kept going. And this whole fight, this dusty sequence must have lasted for about 5 to 10 minutes, on and on and on. And eventually, the one guy, so there was a bit of blood coming down from this guy here. This guy won. And the other guy started running away.
Should have seen the other guy.
Oh, man. A doctor woke him up and said, what happened? So this one then started chasing him. And this here, the back guy, which is the guy with the 2 tusks, the other one only had 1 broken off. But they ran within 10 meters of our car as they chased each other away. And they just kept going and going. From a sighting point of view, I think for me, this, as an elephant sighting, I don't know if I ever see better. It was intense. It was photographically magic. You could hear them. You could almost smell them.
Probably for all the senses, right? A lot of times you're photographing wildlife at such a distance that you don't really hear and the other senses experience it. But if you're smelling it and hearing it and seeing it, it must have been what an experience.
The interesting thing just on that is a very good point. If people planning their trips, like if you go for polar bears, you might get them a little pixel even with an 800. But in Africa, if you, as a general, if you want to get closer to animals, like you want to use a 7200, you're looking at Southern Africa because there you can go off-road. In South African Reserve, you can go off-road, you can get pretty close. Where East Africa, so Kenya, Tanzania, Amboseli, the Masai Mara, the places are so vast that they do tend to be further.
Yep.
So normally, you need more glass, you need more lens when you go to places like Amboseli. Whereas Madikwe, the Sabi Sands, you don't have to be as close. I wanted to just show you this here. So the time of year for me is important. And this is why, for me, Madikwe ranks as one of the top places that you have to visit for wildlife photography. This was in July, and some of this is from the hide. So this here, these impala drinking, this baboon jumping, this is all from the photographic hide. But then what we did this time of year, because Madikwe gets ridiculously dry, and you got scenes like this, which is, so this is Madikwe in the winter, midwinter. And these 2 rhinos are walking towards the dam, which is just out of shot on the right-hand side. But the dust that they kick up later in the afternoon. So they were walking in here. Not much water because it's winter. That's why winter is such a good time to come to Africa for safari. But then as the sun sets, right, the next day, and we get there quickly for you, I'm going to just scan forward, you start getting these scenes, right, where you're shooting into the sun, and you've got these elephants and rhinos and buffaloes, the imagery you can create with this dust. I mean, this is Africa. This is just It is absolutely magnificent. And this is 2014, right? Every single year, trips between May and October, depending on when the rains come, you can expect this. It's a place called Clou Dam. Clou, T-L-O-U. It's a Tswana word meaning elephant, so elephant dam. But this time of year, I mean, that is just, this is the kind of stuff that happens there every afternoon, literally, because it's the only water. You know the elephants have to come there. You put yourself on the eastern side, you shoot into the west, and it is just totally spectacular. So then, on this day, we had, the light was gone. This is like at 1,000,000 ISO, or like 6,400, right? But still, the images you can create in that late afternoon, this to me gives a feel of like old school Africa, like the Africa we're trying to protect and remember. Yeah. It is just Madikwe, guys. For you listening out there, if you want a safe, like malaria-free, family-friendly, Big Five, ridiculous photographic experience, check Madikwe out. It makes for incredible imagery. So that, I mean, Madikwe for me is a win. Alastair, where in Africa have you been?
Only South Africa.
Yeah,
all along South Coast and East Coast, Cape Town across.
We're gonna have to remedy that. I said this last.
Sorry, you broke up as you said that. I missed it.
Quickly, one. Oh, we have to remedy that. We need to remedy that very urgently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have to make a plan. I think we're going to put like a SmugMug trip together, and then people load straight and they build their SmugMugs from the Mara or something. I think there's something there.
I'm in.
Done. People, if you get hold of Alastair, let's make it happen. Okay, so for me, and this the Mara has been voted many times as the greatest game reserve in the world because of its diversity and quantity and quality. So I'll show you one or two more galleries, but we'll skip through those gruesome stuff first. But it's all about the Great Migration, right? During July to kind of October, the Great Migration, which is 1.5 million wildebeest, about 500,000 zebra, they do this journey throughout Kenya and Tanzania. So if people say to me, listen, I'm going to do one safari ever, what's it going to be? You have to choose the Masai Mara. If you want to do different destinations, do that Best of Kenya one. But the Masai Mara as a once-off, I said to people often that if you've been on safari in South Africa, you go to the Masai Mara. And even someone like my dad, who's been on many safaris, he will see more animals on one day in the Masai Mara than all of his South African trips combined.
Yeah.
And that's not exaggerating. It is, that's how many, it's quantity and quality.
Yeah, having done South Africa, definitely the Masai Mara is on that list of probably the next place I want to do. And it's something that, we see lots of television shows about. It's very well documented, and the migration is obviously very, very famous there. So it's something that's in that, lore of photography, and you want to go experience it for sure. You're very fortunate to.
100%. It's bucket list stuff. I mean, and this is the reason why when we went there the first time, the first ever official wild eye trip was to the Masai Mara, because I booked it through this company. But the very next year, we opened our own camp in the Mara. So we have our own Wild Eye Mara camp, which is on the banks of the river, 12 people only, and it is just photographic. I cannot explain to you the whole experience, but it's about this, right? It's about these wildebeest who try and cross the river. And I'll flash through a few galleries because the season by season is different. But the one thing that a lot of people want to try and photograph is scenes like that. Okay. That is a crocodile, and that is also a fully grown male zebra. Now, if you imagine the size of the zebra's head, that crocodile is just wrong.
I was going to say, that's not just a crocodile, that's just the head of the crocodile.
That's just the head. Now, what they say is if you see the head, you can times by about 9. That's the distance of this thing. These things are like minivans with legs. They are obscenely large, right? But this particular zebra actually made it. If you look nicely here, the jaw missed. But these kind of action shots it's what you go there for. Okay, some of them don't make it. We won't go to all of those right now. Yeah. Different story. But
don't show some of the videos you've shown me.
We'll keep those for a different time.
Poor zebras.
I mean, it's the poor zebra, the crocodiles win normally. But I mean, shots like this. I'm talking to the photographers out there now. This guy made it as well. But these kind of shots, and the excitement of getting these type of shots. That's what it's about, is sitting there and kind of, when you finish shooting, exhaling and think, holy hell, what just happened? That's what it should be like.
Yeah.
But the diversity here, I mean, buffaloes, the sunsets in the Mara, the skies are bigger than you can imagine. And it's all about these wildebeest and the zebra trying to cross the river. Yeah. But with that comes predators, cats, the lions, leopard, and cheetah specifically. I mean, if you want to photograph cheetah, you have to go to East Africa. They are the ambassadors of the place. Just trying to think, I saw one here somewhere. These guys. I mean, on every single, so I must have done about, no jokes, Alastair, maybe 150 trips to the Mara, and on every single one, you see cheetah, lion, and leopard. It just is that kind of place. It delivers.
So do they, sorry to interrupt. Do they all come to the banks while the migration's happening, because they know all the wildebeest are going to be there?
Yeah. So how would it happen? And this is just an example of this cat. We didn't know this leopard was here. These wildebeest started crossing, right? They're crossing the river here. And then down here in the corner, suddenly we just see this dust, boom. And this leopard hit the wildebeest. It was hiding against the bank, and it just grabbed one, right? So what happens in off-season, so when the migration's not there, the river is kind of the focus of the area. The prides and the different individuals try to spread out a bit. So they kind of hunt normal. Yeah. They have to go look for food, if you will. But when the migration comes through, it revolves around the river, and all the predators pull closer. So what we do in the mornings, if you go to the Masai Mara, you work the river up and down, because if there's lots of food, you'll have lots of predators. And I mean, all of these shots, these things here, this is taken about 7:30 in the morning, close to camp. Like if you look, this is Scar, one of the most famous lions in the Masai Mara. If you turn around from this scene, behind you about 700 meters is the river. So all of these things hang around where the food is, and the food is around the river during migration time.
So do the predators, do they interact with each other at all, or do they try and stay apart, or do they fight?
They do. You get interaction between lion prize, leopards on lions, hyenas on cheetahs, cheetahs on it. You get everything. It is because where the food is, it's like, I mean, as an analogy, it's probably, if you haven't been to, let me give you a South African analogy. We haven't been able to buy alcohol because of this lockdown thing for 8 weeks now, right?
I knew this was going to get about alcohol at some point.
You see, come on. But on Monday, coming Monday, they're opening the alcohol stores. That kind of mayhem, right, of people wanting to get what they want to get. Bad analogy.
The great migration.
The food's there. And so the predators interact. Beautiful lions, amazing cheetahs. It has everything. The Masai Mara literally has everything. So we were watching this crossing happening. So this is from our side of the river, photographing to the other side. And these wildebeest come down the bank. Now, the stuff that you can create photographically, and I mean, my mom's not listening, so I can say this. She's a horrible photographer, right? She has no idea. But I can put a camera in her hand and say, point and shoot, and she will create stuff that's amazing because nature does it for you. So we're photographing this, and suddenly one of my clients, Tristan, I actually remember, he shouts, look, at the top. And out of the dust, this lioness comes running, and because they know that these wildebeest are going down there, so they're standing still, or they're coming up and they're waiting for them.
And there'll be bottlenecks and stuff where they're like, they can't move, and just fair game.
And they just pick them off. So and people often, they divide on this. Do they want to see kills or don't they want to see kills when they go to the wild? Like a lion killing something. And it's a very polarizing thing. To me, it's not always our privilege to understand why these things happen. It's just our privilege to document it. So I stay there because it can be emotional. But if you want to photograph kills and hunts, you have to go to the Masai Mara when the wildebeest are there because it's all over the place.
Yeah. Do you know why I want to go to Masai Mara? Is for migration, but not for the kills. I love that moment when they're coming down the bank and the dust is thrown up and you have this like that, right? And here's the problem. Gerry, I don't know if you can see my screen at the moment, but this is my screensaver.
Ooh, I can't see what it is, sorry.
It's one of your shots, actually. You shared some screensavers last year. And I'm like, I need to go get my own screensaver, you know?
Exactly. But like this shot here, so this is a crossing point called the Peninsula, and it's one of the biggest ones in the Mara. We've sat here the first year I was there, and maybe once or twice since, We've had crossings that lasted 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
No joke. So for 4 or 5 hours,
tens of thousands of bees.
And coming, I mean, they reckon something between 50 and 100,000 could cross easily. And that's small in the context of what the migration is.
Yep.
But these kind of stuff with dust kicking up and multiple exposures, shooting through foliage. Okay, let's not watch that. Keep going.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. So these things happen, right? But then you turn around from a river and you've got scenes like this. So diversity for single wildlife. I mean, if you look at stuff like this as well, the river plays its role in the migration, and that is why you want to go there. And like you say, it's that dust and the action around and the zebra and the buildup and these animals running and the dust and the water. It's just, I mean, and this is a challenge. To photograph a single wildebeest coming down, that's very difficult because normally there's hundreds and thousands of them.
Yeah,
so,
that's you don't want to be a wildebeest on your own, right? You want to be in the safety of the herd,
yeah.
right?
Bad plan. It's a bad plan to be on your own.
That poor
wildebeest. This is just some of the Masai Mara. I can show you many galleries. We'll maybe jump to one or two. But black rhino is amazing in the open. You get these kind of landscapes where giraffe, the tallest land animal, to be able to create landscapes like this, where you've got animals, which is the tallest in the world, looks this small in an environment. That is just, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Right. Then let's quickly jump a little bit south in Africa. For one of my top wildlife photography destinations in Africa has to be Mana Pools. Now, let me just confirm here, almost every single image in this gallery was taken from foot. So here you would drive and you would get off and you would walk into position to photograph these things. It's all about the elephants. And during this time of year, what they do, so you're looking from about, again, July through October, what these elephants do is they reach up to get the seed pods because it's super dry during the wintertime, and they reach up. The big guys reach up to get the seed pods. The youngsters hang around them, but this is from foot. This is, I don't know, 25 meters from these guys.
So what makes Mana Pools somewhere you can do on foot when you can't do it in the others?
So it's always been a self-drive reserve, and in any national park, right? In a national park, you cannot walk. You have to have a guide.
Yep.
Mana Pools is a bit of an anomaly in that it's always been a self-drive camping area. And it's only very recently, in the last maybe year and a half, where the Parks Board said, listen, you can't walk on your own because John and Sarah, who is on their honeymoon and they're doing a self-drive, they went walking, right? Which is bad because they don't understand. So now, only in the last year and a half, you have to have an armed ranger with you from a safety point of view. But I mean, myself and my guys, we qualify, but we always take a ranger with. But it's one of the few places it's designed to be on foot. It's that kind of place. And this is what you want to see there. It's very unique. Is
there less cats and stuff at Mana Pools? Is it just elephant and
lions are good? Lions are good. You don't find cheetah, and if you find leopard, you're super lucky.
Yeah,
so if someone
I'm just thinking from being on foot point of view, is like why is it so different from everywhere else?
So lions on foot here can not be a problem. The thing is though, I mean, if you look at some of these environments, and let me pull back something here for you, like even this, right? This is early morning, just outside of camp. We walked out. So this elephant's reaching up into the trees, but it's this kind of environment. So there's not many thickets. So safety-wise, you can see pretty far through the bushes and stuff, but you still have the ranger. And lions in these environments, and don't quote me on this, and always practice safety, but a lion who sees you in the wild will often give you warning and then he'll back up first. But because we have a ranger and one of myself or my guides with, it's 100% safe. We focus on that. You focus on the photography and the experience. But you're not going to see leopards there. But this, just imagine for me this. This here is a very, very large male elephant. Look at the scale of the place. It's just incredible. And this is one of the places where something like the Masai Mara, great as it is, it's very, very, very kind of flat and big. So if you want those clean shots with nothing and with that bokeh where it just drops to this creamy background, that's cool. But if you want to create three-dimensional images where you've got the background of the Zambezi River and the mountains in the background and the height of the trees, again, what do you want from your portfolio? Mana Pools is a must. The experience on foot is great, but the scale of the place is next level. It is just totally next level.
Yeah. And I think just that experience of being on foot would be just such a unique thing to do, you know.
Oh, it's exhilarating, and it never gets old. It never gets old. Okay, let me quickly jump. So we've checked 2015. I'm going to quickly just forward to one or two different destinations. Tanzania. So sighting-wise, the Serengeti, but specifically a little corner called Ndutu is something you want to check out. And I also want to take you guys to... Okay, penguins are cool. We like penguins.
Gotta go to Boulder Beach, right?
Yeah, Boulder's Beach, absolutely. I mean, you can literally stick like a fisheye in their face and they dig it. It's awesome.
Yeah, great experience.
So just the Serengeti itself is known for the migration as well, but we run trips there early in the year for the migration, but it's about the predators as well. So lions, specifically cheetah in this environment because they hunt the herds. But one of the places, if people are looking for unique wildlife, is a place called Ndutu. So things like this do not happen every single day. A male lion up a tree. Now, the herds in Ndutu, I mean, the scale of this again, that's a big-ass male lion, right? But so the herds here have started climbing the trees because they're trying to get away from the insects and stuff at the bottom. So they climb up the trees, and the photographic opportunities in this place is stupid. But it's a little pocket called Ndutu, and there's these umbrella thorn forests with these kind of trees, and this is what these guys do there. The photographic ability here is quite silly. The youngsters go up, the old ones go up, and here, this is probably one of my most unique ones that I saw there, would be two cubs, well, juveniles, up a tree, and then suddenly a double rainbow pops up. You're joking. I mean, what? This was ridiculous. So it was only our three vehicles. You got two cubs in this tree on a big screen. This is amazing.
That's what an incredible experience.
It's just ridiculous. But if you want tree climbing lions, there's this option, which is Lake Ndutu in the Serengeti in Tanzania, or then you have to go to the Ishasha sector in Queen Elizabeth National Park. But we'll get to that in a second.
We had a few we have a few shout outs for Serengeti in the chat. I asked people where their favourite spot was that they'd been in.
Oh yeah,
Serengeti definitely came up.
Must. It is so good, so good. I'm going to quickly jump to 2017 here. So this becomes interesting. That we need to talk about Tweedsmuir, and just that as an example. This will take you to some of these places. Queen Elizabeth would be in there, I think. Right. So gorillas is rightfully one of the proper bucket lists. So top wildlife destination in the world would have to be gorillas. The experience of getting this close to these big apes, and there's only 3 countries in the world where you can see them, mountain gorillas, is Rwanda, Uganda, and the Congo. So Congo, we're not really going to at this stage, different story, but Rwanda and Uganda both, from a photography and experience point of view, this is how close you get. You're shooting 24/70 most of the time, 7200 as well, but it's almost like portrait photography on steroids because you're getting this close to these guys. This is 7200 at 70mm 2.8. And the first time you ever see them, it's actually difficult because it's almost so overwhelming that these big things are right there. But the photography, it's a slower experience than normal safari, because normal safari in a game drive, if the action goes down, can be tough. Oh my God, the lion's running. Oh, he's caught it. No, he's missed it. Photograph. But this is like, it's like quiet and almost, I want to say, ethereal in a way. But combining this experience with a normal safari. So again, the Masai Mara into Rwanda or Uganda, you can combine very easily. So if people are going to travel across the world from the UK, Europe, or the United States, why not stay 4 days extra and add this onto your trip?
What's the logistics of getting to see these? Is there a limit on the number of people that can go in?
Yeah,
each
very
year?
much. So what they do is it's different. So in Uganda and Rwanda, there's different. So if I look at Uganda over here, Uganda is cool for me because Rwanda is very much just about the gorillas. You get golden monkeys. Where are the golden monkeys? They're in here somewhere. These little things, right? They're cute, but you're not going to travel from New York to watch a golden monkey. That's not that great. But in Rwanda, it's just about the gorillas, whereas in Uganda, you can do Kibali, which is chimpanzees. And if you do that first, it kind of leads you into the gorillas and you kind of get used to shooting in that kind of environment. But what they do is every family of gorillas only sees one group of people per day. And that group has 8 guests in it. And then they've got your gorilla tracker and then some guides. So your experience starts at early, 6 in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, you head up. You might hike for anything between half an hour and 5 hours. And when you get to the family, you have 1 hour with them. That's it. And then you hike your way down again. So your gorilla experience will be, it could be the whole day, or you could be home by lunchtime, but you only spend 1 hour with the animals, and it's for their best. We don't want people getting again. So there's different. In Uganda, you've got, what are they called? There's Buhoma and Ruhija, which are the 2 centers where you go from, and each of those has about between 6 and 12 families. So you can do the math. I mean, 5 families, 8 people per, and you go off, you spend your hour, you come back, and it's done. So it is very, very well managed.
Yeah. So under normal circumstances, because obviously travel at the moment is not normal, but how far in advance would you have to plan if you wanted to go see gorilla?
It's a good question. I mean, we normally, under normal circumstances, we would normally book anything between 6 months to a year out. I was trying to, because one of my next trips this year would have been to these guys for a private guided trip. And we had to cancel, obviously, now with the whole COVID-19 thing. I'm trying to get permits for end of August 2021, and it's tight.
Right.
It's already tight. If people want to do like a private guided trip on their own, and it's 2, maybe 3 people, you should be able to squeeze in. But if you're looking for a big group, it's tough. Hey, the longer the better. It's long out.
Yeah, it's not something you're going to do with short lead time if you want to see gorillas, which let's face it, it's a bucket list thing. So you are going to plan it and maybe make it one of those milestones in your life. Then you want to plan it probably a couple of years in advance if you can.
100%. I mean, I would look a year to 2 years out is not unrealistic. And I would also say that if you're going to do it, some people say, I'm going to do a trip in Serengeti or in Masai Mara, and then I'm going to just quickly do one gorilla trip. No, don't do that. Minimum 3. Yeah. The cost is obviously a thing because the permits in Rwanda right now, I think, is $1,500 per person, which is kind of heavy. And in Uganda, it's $750. So same experience. I would say go to Uganda now, but no less than 3 trips, because you don't want to hinge your gorilla photographic on 1 hour.
Yeah.
It's going to break.
Yeah. Got to play the odds, right?
Oh, man. So Uganda and Rwanda, great for that. I just want to show you guys this quickly. This is Mana Pools, and you remember the dusty shots from early on.
Yeah.
This is Mana Pools during December. I've only been there once in December.
All the grass.
It was a different world. It was like a new reserve I've never been to. So the idea here is just don't diss the same destinations in different seasons. It's amazing.
It can be completely different.
Yeah. Then this one for me was a first in this year. What year was this? This is 2017. I ran an expedition up to the Great Bear Rainforest on the British Columbian coast. Now, the heroes in this place, every destination has a hero. The hero here is the spirit bear or the Komodo bear. It's a black bear with a double recessive gene, and they come out white. It looks like a little polar bear, but it's not, right? But it looks like a little polar bear. So I went there with the intention of me and my guests just photographing these things. The diversity almost shocked me. Landscapes and sea otters, stellar sea lions. We've seen elephant seal up here. The sunsets, the experience, down to macro. I mean, we were shooting crabs on the beach, right? Macro in the rainforest. You're walking on foot as well. The whales in this part of the world. If you want to see whales breaching, watch this space. I'll show you some stuff now. But the experience of this place, and again, it's boat-based. So I charter a yacht, and we put 6 guests, myself, and we go into this place. But I just want to show you the scale of this place again. If the African, there we go. So this is one of my zodiacs. Look at the scale of this, right? Now, inside of this place, the wildlife is actually quite astounding. Grizzly bears, again, mixed up with, and this is chronological as I went through the trip, right? So I was photographing grizzly bears, and beside me there's a little bumblebee, and then there's birds. But the diversity of this place, if you look at the scale of this, and this is a fully grown grizzly. Was this grizzly or black? Let's just check it quickly. This is a fully grown black bear, but the scale, animal environment is ridiculous. It is just beautiful.
Pure wilderness.
We went through this. Oh man, to me, this challenged Svalbard, and I'm very pro Svalbard. I love that place. This challenged it as far as almost feel like you're living in a movie. It's so diverse, right?
Yeah.
But the breaching in this, I'll show you that on the next year's gallery. But black bears in the rain, they stand up, everything here on Zodiacs. And eventually we found, I mean, I'm just scrolling through this quick. Guys can go and log on and check some of these later. And then we saw this. Come on, internet. You can do this. So this was at the bottom. So the spirit bear gene is very centered on a little place called Gribble Island. It's a little triangular island in the middle of the Great Bear Rainforest. And this is where the gene kind of was found and still is the strongest. There's only between 300 and 400 of these animals in the world. And this was my first view of one, a little butt, right? It's this little white butt on the southern side of Gribble. And that's what they look like. They are absolutely, so it's the size of a black bear.
Yep.
But because of the double recessive gene, they turn out this kind of white, kind of creamy color.
Yep.
And the photography here, so what we do is we photographed the first one that we saw from the vessel and from Zodiacs, and she gave us a good show. We had it for about an hour on the kind of edge of the island. And then what you do is we anchor, and for 2 days you walk in. So you walk into these creeks, and they've got these very rudimentary platforms built, and you basically just go and park there for the day. We take lunch with, we take breakfast with, and coffee, and you wait, because what these things do, it's end of August, is they hunt salmon, because the salmon are spawning, swimming up the river. These bears would walk up the river, and then they hunt on the way down. So we saw her here first, but then, and this to me still ranks as one of my best wildlife moments ever, and I cannot recommend the Great Bear Rainforest highly enough for any keen wildlife photographer, even landscape and just travel photographer. It is super diverse. This is looking up the creek, and this guy, his name was Boss. He's one of the dominant guys. He came walking down the river. He crosses this to me was like fairy tale stuff, because sitting there, and there's less than 400 of these in the world, right? And suddenly you've got this animal doing all of this in front of you. So fast forward a little bit, he kept coming and kept coming, and eventually he came. This here is, I'm almost thinking with a 2470, because it's just on the other side of the stream from us. And I mean, some of my guests were actually quite nervous, but he walks down the river and then he comes back up and he's hunting salmon as he goes. But this experience is dead quiet, right? It is dead quiet, and you just hear him sloshing through the water. I mean, this was just totally ridiculous experience.
And I guess if there's that much salmon, I guess if there's that much salmon, he's really focused on hunting, right? So you're pretty safe-ish, I guess.
Oh, going on. I mean, the incidents. I mean, we had one black bear charge, but I mean, whatever. It wasn't major. It was just like
great
a little,
photos, though.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, absolutely. So this was golden, right? So this guy was hunting salmon, and he came in between these rocks. So we're sitting on the side of the river, and he's hunting up. And it's with anything, wherever in the world you travel for wildlife, you have to focus on animal behavior. It's either repetitive or you got a guide like myself telling you what's going to happen next. And this guy then started hunting straight at us. So he's looking in between these green rocks. Wow. He's climbing over things. He's looking for the salmon, checking it out. And then he pounces, and then he started hunting straight at us.
Jeez.
So he's after salmon here, but we're sitting on the side of the river of this little creek, and you've got one animal, less than 400 in the world, doing this. It was absolutely magical. I mean, he looks a bit sad there because he missed, but still, right? So
you didn't miss, though.
I mean, these kinds, yeah, absolutely. We nailed this from start to finish. It was absolutely magnificent. So the cool thing here was, and he did this about on day one about 4 times. On the next day, there was 2 of them, I think 3 or 4 times, right? But the cool thing with this, if you look at this environment, just from a photographic point of view, talking like just technical for a second, you have a lot of shadows and you have a lot of sunlight coming through. So if you're shooting deep into this and the sunlight falls on the bear, if you underexpose dramatically, you can create ridiculously interesting type of shots, like something like this, I think. Let me just see if this is loading, where he's again walking straight at us, the light, but now you're underexposed. So suddenly you're creating very
your
dramatic
internet,
images on top
struggling,
of all the action
unfortunately.
images.
You're breaking up. Unfortunately, your image isn't shown. I guess it's probably dinner time in Johannesburg too, right? So everyone's at home and everyone's on
email or something.
Yeah. It's just not loading.
So I mean, can you see the shot on screen now?
No, unfortunately, we can't.
Oh man, can you see this?
No.
This is the gallery, yeah?
Yeah, no, you're just frozen, unfortunately, completely at the moment. We can hear you, but your picture's broken up and we're not seeing the screen, but give it a second.
Nothing has changed. We'll give it a sec. So what I'm saying is once this pops is you get this white subject walking in bright sunlight, you're underexposed dramatically and you've got pitch black with this animal in front. So it almost feels like a studio shoot in some instances, but the diversity is just amazing. Let me close this one and just see, have you caught up onto my screen yet?
No, your screen's completely frozen. Even your cursor's not moving.
Yeah, that's bad.
Do you maybe want to stop sharing and try resharing again, see if that works?
Shall I do that? Okay. I am going to do that quickly for you. Let me do that. Stop sharing.
Yeah. I'll just let
the first time. Hey.
Hi. I'll just let folks know that obviously Gerry is in Johannesburg, where the internet's not as great as it may be where you're joining us, and we're always fighting a little bit. And the time of night as well. It's a bad time of night when everyone's home watching Netflix in your home, Gerry.
Netflix, yeah, exactly. Let me just see if I can get this done. Okay, am I moving? Can you see me?
You're moving, very pixelated, but you are moving. But
yeah, I think maybe it's our area is there's so many people around here.
Yeah, at least we haven't had the infamous load sharing. Yeah, load shedding.
Oh, don't even. Yeah, that's been real for a while.
Shouldn't jinx it. That's when you get all the crazy power cuts.
It goes down. It does seem to be struggling slightly. I do apologize for this, guys. It's I wish I could control that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get this back up.
What's interesting is having done so many of these live streams over the last few weeks, is even in places where we know they have great internet, everybody's struggling because so many people are live streaming. So a lot of the providers have actually throttled the bandwidth quite considerably for every individual, so that they're sharing that kind of load a little bit. So it's kind of understandable that it's struggling.
I've had better internet. I've had better internet in the middle of the Masai Mara because they've got towers on high hills. Like I've watched, literally, I test drove and I watched a Game of Thrones in the game drive vehicle in a line sighting, and it probably streamed better than in my office in Johannesburg.
Hey, dude, I've had better internet in the wilderness than I get in downtown San Francisco. So that's.
It's truly bizarre. This thing is struggling for some reason. What's the time?
Listen, we've been all over with you already. That maybe you can just recap verbally without sharing images. If you could only go, this is maybe a difficult question, but if you could only go to one place for the rest of your photographic work, where would it be?
See, my heart almost wants to say
Svalbard. I knew you were going to say Svalbard.
There. It has to be. But I think if it's photographic, and then I've got to kind of step back from the emotion and say, right, what place is going to give me the most diversity, the most action, the most change of season? I think it would have to either be Serengeti or Masai Mara. Because the change in that ecosystem when the wildebeest come through, how they change the ecosystem, how the environment changes, the animal changes, and how they move on again. I think if anybody were to take a gap year as such and go live in the Masai Mara for a year, it would be insane. Yeah. The action you get, the change from long grass to nothing to dust, the clouds, the flooding, the drought, I think the Masai Mara, especially on the Mara River, where everything happens, I think that as a photographic project would be amazing. I think the seasons would drive it. Whereas in Svalbard, you've got 3 months, and then it's dark. Yeah. You can't photograph anyway. But I think something like the Massa Mara, just the way that ecosystem will regenerate and change over time, it's a must. It's just a must, hey?
Massa and Mara is definitely high on my list, and
Well,
the difficult for many people is this is a once in a lifetime
yeah.
event. You know, the costs and the time and the travel for
Mm.
many people, and every time you show me your work and show this great diversity, it makes it harder and harder to decide if you're only going to
Oh,
do it once, which one do you do?
mm.
So
Yeah. So what I would normally do, I mean, and people, if they're welcome to get hold of me on Instagram, is even if they don't travel with me, I'm happy to help with the process of, if someone says to me, I want to go on safari, I send them a form on my website, and it's literally question, where do you want to go? What time of year? What is your budget? Do you want to stay in a high-end lodge, or are you happy to camp? What species do you want to photograph? What lenses are you taking? What photographic techniques do you want to do? Because all of those things together will then help us decide where you should go. So if anyone wants to get in touch, I'm more than happy to assist, even if I can just kind of recommend and they can do their own thing. But that's a big deal. It'll make sure that once in a lifetime is worth it.
yeah, and there's nothing worse, than investing that money and time and being in the place with the wrong lens and the not getting, you're in the wrong place for the type of animal you'd hoped you'd seen and stuff. So you definitely want to take the advice of people like Gerry and the team that they have there at Wild Eye to really look after you and guide you, not just at the actual safari, but in the lead up to planning it. It's a huge investment not to use the professionals to help you.
100%. I think that on the ground is the value, is the 2 hours, for example, spent taking this flight versus that flight gives you 2 more hours in the field. Is if you know you're going to take that flight out, you get an extra night in the Massa Mara rather than spending it in Nairobi, or another day in Longyearbyen in Svalbard, or in, I don't know, Antananarivo in Madagascar. But those logistics, it is not just about the photography. It should be about the experience. Total. Has to be.
Wonderful. Listen, I think I'm going to wrap it up before we push this data stream too far and lose you completely.
I wish I could change that.
No, it's fine. I kind of half anticipated anyway. One last question from me. What are you drinking?
This was a Glenfiddich, I think.
Glenfiddich, yeah. Being a true Scotsman, I got to check out what was in the glass. It would be rude of me not to. I would just let everybody watching know that in the description in the show notes here on YouTube, you will find links to all Gerry's work and to the main websites, both for himself and for Wild Eye, where you can reach out and get in touch and find out more information, but also just see some incredible photography. We are very, very fortunate in our headquarters in San Francisco to have a beautiful large print on the wall of Gerry's, which is my favorite shot of yours, which funnily enough is in Svalbard, and it is a polar bear, but it is loved by the whole company, and we're very blessed to have that.
Black and white one.
It's a black and white one. I think you're in the little what you call the Zodiac, and it's walking across the kind of snow. Incredible shot. So check that out on Gerry's pages. You'll notice that as soon as you see this, profile of a full grown polar bear taken kind of looking up, because you're in a Zodiac below it kind of thing. It's incredible.
It's on if people want to go and look for it, it's on the 2018 Gallery Svalbard. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah. Beautiful shot. Gerry, I will let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Let's maybe do this again sometime. Hopefully we can. And I know we've only scratched the surface, right?
Oh man, we haven't even started yet. But yeah, I mean, thank you for the opportunity, guys. Thank you for listening. And if I can help with anything photographic wise, SmugMug travel, I'm here. I'd love to help.
Yeah, and I know Gerry does a whole bunch of webinars and education on his own channel, so definitely recommend that you go check that out. Gerry, thank you so much. I would just ask everybody, obviously one last time, as a favor to myself, go hit that little subscribe section there, hit the little bell notification. That way you'll find out about all the wonderful subjects we've got coming here, some great ambassadors coming, some great insight into this amazing world of photography where there's such diversity, not just in a single genre, but so much diversity in all the genres of photography, and we're very blessed to have people like Gerry join us. So again, Gerry, thank you so much. Everybody have a great day wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Take care, and we'll see you back here on SmugMug Live next week. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.